You ever leave a conversation feeling totally drained? Or maybe like you were just talking to a brick wall? And then, on the other hand, you've had those talks that leave you buzzing, full of energy and new ideas, right? Well, that difference, it's not magic. It's actually a skill. And today, we're going to break down how you can turn your everyday chats into these amazing, meaningful connections, all based on the work of Charles Duhigg. I mean, this quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that feeling, that high you get from a conversation that really truly clicks, where you feel completely seen and understood. That's the feeling we're aiming for, and we're going to learn how to create it on purpose. So here's the game plan for this explainer. First, we'll talk about the supercommunicator promise, what we're actually trying to achieve. Then we'll get into a crucial decision point, help or hear. After that, we'll learn a really powerful technique called looping for understanding, then move on to creating deeper connections, and finally, we'll wrap it all up into your very own communication toolkit. All right, first things first, the supercommunicator promise. What is the end goal here? What does it even mean to be one? Think about it. You probably know someone just like this. They're that person who, when you talk to them, you just feel like the most fascinating person on earth. They don't just talk at you, they really connect with you. That conversation that flies by, that's the goal. That's who we're learning to be.
So how do we get started? Well, the absolute foundation, the very first step, comes down to answering one simple but critical question. Is the person I'm talking to looking for help, or do they just need to be heard?
This pretty much sorts every conversation into two big buckets. On one side, you've got the practical conversation. Someone comes to you and they want solutions, they want advice. But on the other side, you've got the emotional conversation. And here, the goal is totally different. They just want to feel understood. They're looking for empathy, not a 10-step action plan.
And this mismatch, this is where so many conversations just go completely off the rails. Your friend comes to you, stressed about work, and you immediately jump into problem-solving mode. Oh, you should do this, or, well, have you tried that? All they really wanted was for you to say, wow, that sounds incredibly tough. The biggest takeaway here is to listen for that emotion under the words. The second you sense it, hit pause on the advice and just switch into listening mode.
So once you've figured out that, okay, this person needs to be heard, what do you actually do? Well, this brings us to this amazing technique called looping for understanding.
Most of us think being a good listener just means shutting up and nodding in the right places. But that's only half of it. Real listening, the kind that actually builds a connection, is active. It's a process. It's about showing the other person that you are truly with them.
And the process is a super simple 3-step loop. First, you ask a nice open-ended question that lets them share. Then, and this is the key, you paraphrase. You repeat back what they said, but in your own words. Something like, okay, so it sounds like you're feeling really overwhelmed by this project. And then you verify.
That last step, the verification, can be as simple as this one little question. Does that sound right? Or am I getting that correctly? This tiny step is a total game changer. It shows you care enough to get it right. It gives them a chance to correct you. And most of all, it makes them feel deeply, deeply understood. Okay, so looping is awesome for those really emotional moments. But what about when you're just trying to get past boring small talk? Maybe with someone you barely know. This is where we learn to create deeper connections right from the start.
See, most conversations get stuck on the surface with fact-based questions. But supercommunicators, they skip the facts and go straight for the feelings. They ask what Duhigg calls deep questions. So instead of asking, what did you do this weekend? Try asking, what was the highlight of your weekend? The first question gets you a laundry list. The second one gets you a story. It gets you an emotion.
So how do you just come up with these questions out of thin air? It's easy. You just need to focus your curiosity on one of 3 areas. Ask about their dreams. What's something you've always wanted to try? Ask about elevated experiences. What's one of your favorite memories from that trip? Or ask about their passions. What do you love most about what you do? Now, here's a really important rule. When you ask a deep question and someone gives you a real, vulnerable answer, the unspoken contract of connection kicks in. You have to reciprocate. You have to share something a little vulnerable back. Now, it doesn't have to be some huge, dark secret. The key is just to match the emotional tone. If they share a story about feeling frustrated, you share a quick story about a time you felt that way too. It's that back and forth, that matching of feelings that really builds the bond. It sends a powerful message. Hey, I get it. You're not alone in this.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground. So let's pull it all together and pack it up into your brand new communication toolkit.
So here it is, your 4 essential tools. Number 1, always identify the type of conversation, practical or emotional. If it's emotional, your job is to listen, using that simple 3-step loop. To get past the small talk, you connect by asking those deep questions. And finally, when they open up to you, remember to share something back to really build that bridge of trust.
At the end of the day, these tools, they aren't really about becoming a better talker. They're about becoming a better understander. They're about making the people in your life feel truly seen and heard and valued. So as we wrap up, the real question isn't what you're going to say. It's whose world will you try to understand first?